Oh my God. Okay, are you calling me out?
How to coach people. Read The Hungry Brain, Lean and Strong, Renaissance Diet 2.0.
You guys are getting a masterclass in continuing education.
I think that every human has aspect of disordered eating behavior.
Oh, this is the bane of my RD existence.
And you don't treasure it all.
You can swear. Yep, that's totally okay. Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Jen Broxterman, and I am so excited today to introduce Andrew 𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗥𝗏𝗏. He is a fellow Canadian in the fitness and nutrition space. And I mean, we've been social media friends for a while now, but I went out of my way to just send you a private message because I stumbled across this article of yours that was really popular and well received. And you had this cool concept on this 3-bucket theory around nutrition, especially when coaching those Gen Pop, everyday kind of folks that a lot of fitness professionals are going to work with. So I thought I'd have you on today and let's talk about this 3-bucket theory of nutrition. So yeah, hi and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Yes, we've been circling, and then you caught my attention because you were speaking at Coach Catalyst, obviously Trevor's event. A lot of friends of mine were involved, like Ron Gregorian, who's amazing. So the article. So there's a preface that will help set this up. It's a little story. For years ago, I remember anytime I was in a mall, I would see the mall Chinese food, right?
Oh yeah.
Food court Chinese food. And you look at it and you're like, oh, that looks really good. It's a trap, right? So I would get it. It is always mediocre. This is not good high-end Chinese food, the kind of stuff you order from the, one of the best places in town. This is probably overheated in the tray. It's cheap. And you don't enjoy it the way you think you will. You're annoyed that you spent the calories on it. You're annoyed that you spent the money on it. And you usually feel kind of, There are 3 types of food categories, or we can use the euphemism bucket, that is really easy to separate them. And there's all this stuff that we know is nourishing, is healthy. I mean, healthy is a nebulous term, calorie value is a key part of it, but it tends to be rich in lean protein. It tends to have more fruits and vegetables, that sort of stuff, right? And the way it's cooked is also relevant. So you have all this nourishing, healthy, home-cooked food, but that you actually also like, okay? If you pause to think about it, there's a lot of stuff we actually like. Every Sunday, I bake a salmon. I grab a salmon from Costco. I slice up 6 slices. I get 6 meals out of it. I boil a pot of sun-brown rice. And if there's Brussels sprouts, I will slice Brussels sprouts up, put a little bit of olive oil on it, a little bit of seasoning salt on the salmon. And I really like this meal. People fitness competitors will post on their social media, and you look at this counter full of food prep for the week, and I spent 4 hours doing this. And you want to know what this bullshit is? That is virtue signaling and performative. Yeah. What signal does that send to the everyday person? It's like, look how hard and complicated and time-consuming this is, which actually gets people. So the coach is listening. Think about this for a second, and the way that you do this. Are you actually sharing information that helps the person you want to, or are you signaling, this sort of like moral superiority for doing these behaviors? And you can actually inadvertently make people think, wow, that's too hard. I can't do that.
Yeah, it's almost coming off as like, I'm elite and look how special I am. And I have so many clients reach out and they're like, because the way you talk about nutrition online, you didn't make it scary. You didn't make it overwhelming. I'll like chop up a veggie bucket and be like, this took me 5 minutes. Food prep done for the moment. 5 minutes is all I had time to do today. And they're like, I could see myself doing that. You didn't make it too big of a task for me. And that's why I chose you as my nutrition coach.
So if we can get really clear on the fact that, wait a minute, there is a lot of food that we like, we enjoy, and is actually nutrition. Now, I think the psychological barrier is time, energy, convenience. And that's a hurdle we have to climb. Sure, it's true. But then let's look at bucket 2. It's kind of like that mall food court Chinese food. There's all this mediocre, unfulfilling, high calorie, sometimes ultra processed food that we tend to eat out of not having planned ahead, being in a rush, feeling tired. And of course, the quality of the food we eat also impacts how our energy is. There's sort of a vicious cycle there. And I believe a lot of people are eating too much of this category 2 food out of convenience, out of not planning ahead, not having figured out some strategies to make this easier for them.
Oh, this is the bane of my RD existence, truly.
And also falling into that category is a lot of the mindless, bored, snacking stuff. I mean, who here has ever because you just had nothing else, you're rummaging, and you've eaten a sleeve of like salted crackers? Come on, tell me. Like, really?
Oh my God. Okay. Are you calling me out?
Like, and as a kid, you can get away with that stuff. As an adult, like, no. And so how much is, and get really clear on how much during the week, what are the things that you eat? They are not fulfilling. You regret having eaten. You don't feel good after having eaten it. It doesn't nourish you physically or emotionally. And that's a really important aspect. So get really clear on the food in that category. And I actually believe we should try to mercilessly eliminate, and this is strong language around nutrition, but I think we need to mercilessly eliminate this category of food. We got to get as much of it out of our system as possible. And if we do that well, then the times that it happen, we got to give ourselves grace and not feel shame.
Yep.
Because we did it. We get, okay, cool, I'm human, all good, right? It's not about setting up a false ideal that you can't adhere to, but here's the key. Then you look at bucket 3, and this is the food that we treasure and we love, and you don't fucking treasure it all. Okay,
right?
I hope I'm allowed to swear. I think that cat's
you can swear. Yep, that's totally okay.
Right? It's like the people are like, oh, but I love it. No. That's not how this works. Differentiate between the things that are like magical and soul filling and wonderful, and the mediocre stuff. I mean, let's use a bag. We've all done this, a family-sized bag of chips, okay? I like ketchup chips. I haven't eaten them in a long time because they're both 2 and 3. Because the first few chips are magical. They taste so damn good, right? But we all know what it feels like. You're 3/4, 80% through the bag. You don't feel good. They don't taste as good anymore. This is a real phenomenon. And then you got this dilemma, okay, do I finish the bag? And how often do we finish the bag just to get rid of it? And it feels all, and you feel terrible afterwards.
Yeah.
So you can literally go from that bucket 3 to bucket 2. So that's just a boundary thing. And in the article, I use my analogy, a Dairy Queen blizzard. So every week, I usually do a leg day on a Saturday. And then after this, I will go through a drive-through at a Dairy Queen. I will grab a medium Reese peanut butter cup blizzard, and I enjoy it. If you go through the week and you eat a lot of this mediocre bucket 2 rubbish and you're not fulfilled by it, guess what you still want?
You still want your 3s. You still want, and you also still want some good food, but you're still craving the enjoyment from your bucket 3 foods.
Right. But what happens if you're already feeling shame and guilt from having overeaten in bucket 2?
Oh, then the guilt still follows you when you have the bucket 3 foods. You can't really enjoy them.
You taint the experience of the bucket 3 and you experience shame. So my answer is surgically and mercilessly attack bucket 2.
And you know what? The one word you used a lot that I really picked up on, because it's something I use with my own clients, is the word joy or enjoyment. So for me, when I'm labeling a food as a bucket 3 or a category 3 choice, when I talk to my clients, I'm like, hey, these foods are perfectly allowed. Like, we're not going to moralize or demonize sugar or this or that, the other thing. We can't have these foods every day. They're not an everyday, all the time, high nourishment food. But for you, those foods that I want you to actually look forward to and plan ahead for are things that have joy, things that bring you deep satisfaction and enjoyment. Same thing with, for me, baking homemade chocolate chip cookies. That was something I did with my mom on Fridays a couple times a month. And so like I treasure and savor really good. And I've like perfected the recipe of a good, chewy chocolate chip cookie. And then those foods that you're like, meh. And I always kind of look for, with the bucket 1 foods, what I often remind clients is when we're looking for enjoyment, I want to find foods that my taste buds find enjoyment and my stomach for hours and my physical body finds enjoyment hours later. And that's what you were talking about, is you can find these simple, healthy, flavorful, nutrient-dense foods that you're like, hey, if I have a repertoire of like 5 to 10 recipes I rotate through, that I know the ingredients inside out, I know the spices I need to use, I know the cooking time and the cleanup, often it's as simple as getting my clients to find 10 recipes of like, what does a healthy iteration of tacos look like for you? What is a healthy iteration of chicken with some healthy sides going to look like? Let's give you a few things to rotate that you're like, I really enjoy the taste and I really enjoy how my body's going to feel the hours and the rest of the day. And I think you hit on that really, really well. And that's just what I wanted to call attention to.
You know that we didn't talk about this beforehand, but I think this might be useful to coaches. So there's a lot of pathways to continue your education. I mean, over my shoulder, if we're on the video side of stuff, let me pull out a couple of books that are great. Adam Bornstein's a friend. You can't screw this up. This is actually a really good book on like how to coach people on the strategy, mindset, skill side, not necessarily technical nutrition. Or read The Hungry Brain. Actually, I think this is essential reading for anybody who coaches nutrition. Stefan Guinek. This is amazing. We've got Renaissance Diet 2.0. This is pretty fundamental science, amazing stuff. I'm going to give you guys a few more. Lean and Strong. Josh Hillis. Josh Hillis is one of my favorite, like, mindset, like, just empathetic, sweet, wonderful people in the industry. And let me give you one more.
You guys are getting a masterclass in continuing education. This is great.
I got two more for you. So
perfect. Keep going.
So if you really want to, like, this one is a bit more for the Gen Pop, but you need to know books that you could actually like give. Okay, you want to do kind shit for your clients? Give them a gift, like a book here. You could expense it through your business. Give them Jordan Side and Mike Vacanti's Eat It. This is an exceptional book. I don't have a physical copy of Ben Carpenter's book, Everything Fat Loss. Another incredible one. And Fat Loss Forever, Lane Norton.
Awesome.
This one is a spectacular book. I mean, it's almost too much to try to go through, but there's so much out there. So I believe that anybody who's serious about this is always engaging in continuing education. So my point is, you've earned the right to help people if you have the skills and the knowledge. And quite frankly, I'm not too concerned about the specifics of the credential.
We need more allies in this world, more allies in this fight against obesity and healthy lifestyle, because our environment is built up against the average person. It is so hard to succeed in this modern environment. So with a difficult environment, we need more support, more coaching, more caring coaches who keep learning and reading and never stop. And so that's why I just wanted to bring an expert like you onto our channel today, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do as a dietitian. And I had to unbrainwash myself, because that methodology of like RDs are the only ones who have scope over nutrition coaching is so broken and so wrong. And yes, dietitians have their place. They do a lot with the medical nutrition therapy in the hospital system, but we need to get way upstream before someone, is having their leg cut off to diabetes, which is stuff I saw in the hospital as a dietetic intern. So I love that we have this movement building of more good fitness professionals not scared to talk about nutrition with their client in a balanced, evidence-based way.
I think that every human has aspect of disordered eating behavior.
I agree with you on that.
Change the language, and I treat disordered eating is what I would say is sort of subclinical, and then eating disorder is, when you get into the clinical territory. Now, do I think coaches should be fucking careful and thoughtful with this stuff? Absolutely. But again, if you've got representations of some disordered eating, I mean, guess what? Almost everybody we've ever worked with tends to overdo it on weekends. Does that mean that they have binge eating disorder? No. But does it mean that that behavior can be maladaptive or, quote, a little bit disordered? Absolutely, it can. And again, I do not do meal plans. I don't like doing meal plans. I'm not interested in stuff. And I actually think that most people are, quote, unqualified to give meal plans, nor do I think that meal plans help most clients. But what do you think about that?
So here's my honest answers. You are correct in that statement, although some states and jurisdictions are a little bit more strict in their language around it. This is what I actually say when I get on a sales call, when someone's like, will you just give me a meal plan? And I go, I don't, but I want to explain the rationale why, because this is going to serve you to reach your goals better. And I always use the metaphor of learning the sport of soccer. So consider me a really good soccer coach. I know how to take a house league player and get them all the way up to the highest level we can play you. it would be so weird if I gave you this plan and I said, go do this on the field, run 2 steps to the left, jump in the air like you're going to head the ball, swing your right leg like you're going to kick the, score a goal. You tilt your head at me and be like, Jen, it kind of depends where the ball is. But if instead I'm like, hey, I know you have this end goal of being a really elite soccer player. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to come to practice regularly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to coach you the individual skills you need to get really good at soccer. We're going to dribble, we're going to pass, we're going to shoot, we're going to do corner kicks, scrimmage and gameplay and strategy and fitness. So then when I go throw you in a live game, you've got all the muscle memory and ability to instinctually know how to navigate on the field. Losing weight and healthier eating is a whole basket of skills. So we're going to work on increasing your protein and vegetables and your nutrient density of your meals. We're going to work on making your environment more supportive so the healthy choice is the easier choice. I'm going to help you manage stress a little bit differently so you're not pile driving into the glass of wine or the bag of chips at the end of the day. We're going to work on all these, the mindset components of like, I blew it for today. I'll start after the weekend. I'll wait till things settle down. So you and I together, what we're going to do is I'm going to work on mindset and self-talk skills. I'm going to work on problem-solving skills. We're going to work on building a supportive environment. And then we're going to break it down into individual nutrition habits that are going to stack on one another. And so I can guarantee you, I will get you to where you want to go faster, better, and less stress by not giving you a meal plan. Now, does that mean I won't give you meal and snack and recipe ideas and things to cook and try? For sure, I'm going to help you with that. But giving you a rigid meal plan, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but it's in the high 90s of the failure rate. So why would I assign you? Why would I try to coach you with something that has a very, very high chance you won't be successful to begin? And people are like, oh, that makes sense. So even if you're a coach and you're like, the meal plan issue, I hope you're not coaching off of rigid meal plans because you're not going to be a very successful nutrition coach if that's your approach. So again, it keeps you in that safe, habit-based, client-centered way of giving the transition of skills from the coach to the client so they're better set up for success and then to eventually carry those skills into their own life. Like my goal eventually is to graduate my clients to make room for new clients that need support with that skill building. And I still check in with my older clients, but less frequently because I'm doing my job properly and they can keep going on their own.
I agree with that explicitly. And I've never done a meal plan. I hate the idea of even doing them.
Me too.
And I don't feel qualified to create a meal plan for people despite the depth of my experience, nutrition coaching, training, talking nutrition, etc. I wanted to make sure, because there are probably going to be people who found this conversation through my media. So I want to make sure that they know about your certification and reminder. And I'm going to, before we do that, I want to say 2 more books that I think are going to be 2 of the best nutrition books you're ever going to read. One of them doesn't have anything to do with explicitly nutrition, The Coaching Habit. This is really just about asking better questions. It's going to make you a better coach. It's my favorite book on coaching. And I think everybody should be reading Motivational Interviewing in Nutrition.
The Black Bible.
Yep. So your certification, tell everybody about it, please.
Yeah, so my certification is called Prosper Nutrition Coaching. It started a couple of years ago completely by accident. So I've been a dietitian now for 14 years. Part of my story, you may or may not know, is I was diagnosed with stage 3 really aggressive ovarian cancer a week after I turned 34. Like I was an elite CrossFitter, foods and nutrition prof at a university, a dietitian, like I was doing all the right things and this just hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm in remission and I was given a less than 8% chance of being here 5 years later. And this follows my 6-year anniversary. So what the heck does this cancer story have to do with my cert? Well, what I did is I jumped on camera and I started to teach the motivational interviewing questions, the games, the habit-based coaching of how I broke it down, kind of like from a book, but just in real life with a camera on me. So I had a library to give to my staff because my company was still growing. I was hiring more and more coaches to come work for me. And I wanted to have a way that if I was sick in bed or going through chemo or whatever, I had a way to still provide support to my team, even though I was going to be facing this hard season of life. And then the pandemic hit and I had a couple of gym owners sort of know, they're like, like impressed that I was growing a company while going through active cancer treatment. And then they're like, can I put my coach through your in-house training program? Like that would be really helpful for us. And I was like, yeah, I don't mind. Like they can go through. And then that coach told another coach and they're like, can I put my coach through your training? Like they're not going to actually work for you, but like, can I have them go through? And so what I did is through nudging of a number of people, they're like, this is so helpful. This is exactly the training I wish I had when I was getting into the industry. And so what I did is I got back on camera, I refilmed everything, formalized it. It comes with all the habit-based games, motivational interviewing, and resources. I play a lot with games and storytellings and metaphors, as you know. And so I teach coaches, especially personal trainers and fitness coaches, how to safely and effectively and within your scope of practice, so you don't get in any trouble, how to coach healthy habit nutrition to general population clients. So I'm always upfront. If you're like, I want to coach bodybuilders to get shredded on stage, this is not the certification for you. But if you're like, I work with everyday people who have the same challenges of stress and time management and demanding families and some disordered, thinking around food and just maladaptive stress coping habits, what I do is I take principles that work and I break it down for you. And I just show you through the customer journey of how to work with that. And then we also go into the special populations. What do you do if you get a teenage client? What do you do if you have a more elite athletic client? What do you do if someone has symptoms of disordered eating? How do you navigate that? So it's really, really practical, this nutrition certification. And in my old background, I used to work for Precision Nutrition for a while. I helped them with the level 1 textbook rewrite with more case studies and motivational interviewing. And what people have kind of told me is they're like, this is a lot like PN3. This is kind of taking the practical knowledge and they're like, you just show us what to really say and do in real life to guide a client and to have more confidence in those interactions. So yeah, I take on students 4 times a year. So if we're closed, which we are at the moment, you can always add your name to the interest list to kind of get first dibs. And it comes with all the video training. You get one-on-one mentoring with members of my team, and then all the resources for coaching with games and motivational interviewing and a very habit-based approach. So yeah, that's what Prosper Nutrition Coaching is all about. And like you, I love just giving first. So if you go to my website, prospernutritioncoaching.com/freebies, be a kid in a candy store. You can literally start grabbing handouts, resources. There is a lift-off masterclass in there. Tons and tons of free coaching games that you can go bring into your own, client world and just go use with your own clients. So help yourself. It's all free. Be a kid in the candy store and take what's going to serve you. Yeah, so that's what Prosper is all about.
I appreciate that. And for anybody who found you through me.
Yeah, let's hear about you. How can people find you, Andrew? Where's the best place?
Well, first of all, let's make sure they're going to follow you. But all roads go through my Instagram at Andrew Coates Fitness. I'm easy to get there. If you message me, I will respond to everything. Okay. Cool. So, and then I can direct you to other stuff like my podcast, which I'm undergoing a little bit of a restructure on, but I've been doing it for almost 7 years. My website, www.andrewcoatesfitness.com. And yeah, that's it. Like if I'm speaking at a conference or anything of that nature, I'll post it up on my social media. I'm about to catch a flight in a couple of hours.
Yes.
You speak at Luca Hocevar's Bigger Ground Fitness and Business Summit. So gotta head off there, but I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. And you know what, let's wrap it up with 1 point each. If you were to give any one piece of advice to coaches today in this current market with working with the kind of issues we see clients coming in today, what piece of advice would you leave coaches with?
Read that book, The Coaching Habit, for real.
Cool.
Like seriously, I think that's going to have the most outsized impact. It's an easy read. It will show you better types of questions to ask. I bet you there's a ton of overlap with the way that your certification works, but in particular, it will get you sensitized to leaning to ask questions first instead of going into this advice and expert mode, because we all have this instinct. Ooh, new client. I want to show you how much I know. I want to tell you all this stuff so that way you think I'm great and it's going to help you, except that stuff overwhelms them. It can disempower people. If you coaches sometimes take too much ownership over the process to the point where the client isn't left with much and they're disempowered. Right. So if you ask a ton of questions, it's classic stuff. People tend to know what they're supposed to do. Surprisingly enough, they actually know their own bodies. They actually know most of this stuff fundamentally. And if you ask them a lot of questions, and if they're the ones who decide to do the action, better things happen. And this is fundamental to motivation.
Are you in my brain? Are you inside my certification? This is literally what we teach.
Right.
I love it.
And I think the book is just a really great complement to everything. And it's fundamentally is motivational interviewing. You're looking for change talk versus sustained talk, right? That's a fundamental aspect of all this.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to let you go catch your flight. Have a great time at the conference, and I know we'll chat again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.